They are not dead, Metis told him, and indeed they are now fully grown and ready to aid you in your war. At first Zeus couldn't think of no way to rescue those who were to be the new gods, but Metis found for him a magic herb which he dropped unseen into the cup of nectar, the wine of heaven, from which Cronus drank. And the result was that Cronus brought up Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia alive and well, and all eager to be revenged on the monster who had swallowed him. Cronus also brought up the stone which he had mistaken for his youngest child, and after the war Zeus set up at Delphi, the center of the world, and there it must be seen to this day. Then Zeus and his brothers and sisters began the war on the Titans, and few of the children of the Titans sided with them, such as Prometheus and his brother Amphitheus, and some did not take part in the war, having their duties to perform, such as driving the chariots of the sun and the moon. For 10 years the war continued, but neither side gained the victory, and for a time there was a lull. Zeus and his followers encamped on Mount Olympus in northern Greece, while Cronus and the Titans occupied Mount Ortheus farther south. During the pause of the war, Zeus stole away to Delphi to seek advice from Earth herself, who would sometimes speak from her sacred cave in the foothills of Mount Parnassus, over which Apollo's temple was built in later days. Earth, Mother Earth, tell me how to defeat the Titans, begged Zeus. And the deep voice of the oldest prophet of all echoed soundly up to him in the warm breath, the sulphur from below. In the earliest days I bore 3 sons, Briareus, Codus, and Gyes, larger than any have seen in the light of day. 50 heads has each of them, and 100 hands. But cruel Uranus was jealous of their strength, and cast them down into Tartarus, where they are shut up in flaming prison of brass, guarding by the dragon camp. Set the 100th hand free, make them your allies, and you will conquer the Titans, and reign supreme over all gods, and over the races of men who will come to dwell on earth when this war is ended. Zeus knew that Mother Earth spoke only the truth, so he set at once for the dreadful land beneath the ground, making his way down and down through the fearful gloom of Erebus until he came to the brazen walls of Tartarus, round which flowed Phlegethon, the river of fire. In front of the gates of Tartarus crouched the dragon cat, the most fearful monster ever seen. She had more legs than a caterpillar, but each leg had a writhing serpent spitting poison. From her neck grew 50 heads of various beasts. Between her neck and her waist she had a body of gigantic woman, with the snakes curling from her arms in place of hairs, and below she was covered with scales like a sea monster, while her long tail was a scorpion with the sting like a gleaming splinter of sharp eyes. Seeing Zeus, the terrible creature rose on her dusky wings and flew roaring to attack him, fire flashing from his many eyes, but Zeus stood his ground. Wielding the sickle of adamant, which Cronus had named Uranus, which in time she flew at him, Zeus cut off one of her heads, and every time she tried to catch him, in her snaky legs he mowed them from underneath her, until at last she fell to the ground and died. Once camp was slain, the way into Tartarus was clear, and Zeus led out the 3 Titans, and brought them to Mount Olympus, where they had welcomed by the other gods, who set before the divine Umbriels and nectar of the wine of heaven. They all had begun feeding to Zeus and 3 Titans. Hear me, children of earth and heaven. For long we are here, the children of Cronus and Rhea, have fought against the Titan gods, striving for victory which never comes. Well, there are his brothers. They have no more reason to love Cronus than we have. They did not see free from Tyrannus, who came Uranus had hurled you. On the contrary, he made camp the dragon to guard its entrance so it might never again came forth. But help us now, bearing in mind how I have slain Cap and freed them from Tartarus, and how we, the new gods, have welcomed you to Olympus and given you freely our nectar and our brosius. Damus Codus answered mildly, Divine One, all that you say is true, and that you have come upon us, and consider that our hearts, you have freed us from Tartarus, which we have thought never to leave again. And now we will aid you in your struggle and fight at your side against Titans. But one thing we advise, deeper still in Tartarus, thy bound are breathing the sea cyclones. Set them at liberty also, and they will forge weapons for our use and yours, for such is their skill. Then the heart of Zeus was filled with gladness, and he hastened one more through the deep gloom of Erebus to the brazen walls of Tartarus. There he smote off the bounds in which he held mighty Cyclopes, and led them to the caverns under the volcanic island of Limos. Here they set off their forge and made weapons of armor for the gods of Olympus. For Poseidon, a trident which stirred the sea into great storms. For Hades, a helmet that is made wear invisible. And for Zeus himself, the mightiest weapon of all, the glowing thunderbolt, and to go out with it in blinding flash of lightning and roar of thunder. Now once more the gods and goddesses of Olympus made ready for war. Briareus, Codus, and Guys, leading them with great rocks, held them with 100 hands. And against them came the army of Titans, led by the monstrous Cronus, and by Atlas, the hugest of them all. Earth and sea were filled with the din. Heaven was shaken, and high Olympus reeled on its base until the tremor of earthquake reached even down to the distant Tartarus. They hurled their missiles against each other, and the battle cries of each army echoed to the starry sky as they crashed together. Now Zeus put forth all his power, his heart filled with fury. From high Olympus he came hurling his lightning. The thunderbolts flew thick and fast from his strong hand, while thunder and lightning whirled around him in the awesome flame. The forest crackled loudly with fire, and to the wide meadows of Thessaly was scorched bare. All the land seethed, and the sea boiled and bubbled. The hot vapor and the soaring flames lapped the Titans about. All the flashing glare of lightning and thunderbolt blinded their eyes. The heat rose even to chaos beyond the sky, and it seemed as if earth and heaven were crashing together in ruins when the gods and Titans met in battle. Through the clouds of smoke and flame, through the dust storms and earthquakes advanced Codus, Briareus, and Guys, fighting more fiercely than any. 300 rocks after another they launched with their strong hands, and cast down the Titans and seized them, and hurled them from beneath the earth. From 9 nights and 9 days of Titans fell through gloomy Erebus under the earth, and on the 10th day landed in Tartarus, there to lie bound forever. And there at the very bottom of the world the Titans lay in prison, hidden in mystic gloom, and over them the great gates were barred, and also sat Codus and Guys and Briareus, always on guard lest the enemies of Zeus should escape. Only what the Titans had found for Cronus did not lie bound in Tartarus, and this was Atlas, the hugest of them all. Him mighty Zeus set to stand him forever all the mountains in the north of Africa, holding the sky on his shoulders so that he should never fall upon the earth. And here he stood afterwards, until Zeus in pity let him look upon the head of Medusa the Gorgon, and he was turned to stone and became Mount Atlas. But the war being won and the reign of Cronus at an end, Zeus and his brothers cast lots of their inheritance. Hades gained dark Erebus, The kingdom under the earth, which the spirits of dead women and men were soon become his subjects. Poseidon became lord of the sea, ruler of the waves and shaker of the earth. But Zeus won as his share of heaven and the bright light of day, the kingdom above the earth, and he built his palace in the sky and named it Olympus, after the mountain north of Greece, which he had held against the Titans, which became it, and from where the earthly mirror of his heavenly home. In Olympus dwelt Zeus as overlord of all the gods, and in time his children came to dwell there with him. At first he married several wives among the daughters of Titans, Metis, the mother of wise Athena, and Dione, which said to have borne golden Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. To him, though, she was first seen rising in all her beauty out of the foam of the sea. Later he married Leto, who became the mother of the twins Apollo and Artemis, and Maia, the mother of Hermes, the messenger. And later still he married mortal wives, such as Selene, the mother of Dionys, the god of the vine, and Alcmene, the mother of Hercules, the greatest of all heroes, which became god after his death as man. But in spite of these, Zeus made his sister Hera and royal wife and the queen of Olympus, and their children were Ares, the god of war, and Hephaestus, patron of all craftsmen and smiths, and gentle Hebe, who waited upon the gods in Olympus, pouring out the divine nectar at their heavenly feast.